Yo, what is up, gamers, golden gamers of the world? Welcome back to another episode of Radio Melee. Today, I and eventually Toph will be joined by the man who has achieved many things and has achieved yet another wonderful thing this past weekend. And of course, we're talking about getting reverse popped off on, but he also won Gommel. Huge success here. And so, of course, I mean, this man has so many successes, stream successes, YouTube successes, you name it. But we're glad we're able to get him on the program. And if you guys are wondering about Toph, we're just going to address that before I do bring in our guest today. Toph, we started a little early just to make sure we'd have enough time for HBox to talk about everything he wanted to. And yeah, so here we are. We couldn't quite get Toph coordinated with us, but he'll be joining us a little bit later, kind of the reverse of last week. All that being said, all the preamble aside, welcome to the show, Hungrybox. How are you doing today, sir?
Am good. Happy to be here. It's been a while since you and I spoke about anything at a
Yes.
length. I think the last time
Yes.
I saw you might have been like at one of the genocide.
Yes, the
Yeah,
genocide.
one of there as well. So no, I'm just glad, dude. It goes a long way back, and
Yeah.
I think we can all like sort of enjoy when I guess one of the old school five gods wins a tournament, whether it's like me or
Oh
Naruto.
yeah.
Brings me back. So happy to see you again, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, God making huge moves on the screen, and of course the same God, this HBox guy, man, making the moves off the screen here, joining us, spreading the cloud around. Really do appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, let's kind of just go into it, and I think this is such an important question for the whole thing, and we are going to talk about, of course, the thing that everyone wants to talk about. But I want to first ask you what I think is, I hope, more relevant to you as a player, and that is, what did this Gommel win mean to you? I mean, it was 2 years, I believe. I think that's what you tweeted. It's been 2 years since the or so, since a major win, and there was the quarantine, and then there was the net play challenges and everything like that. But ever since offline's come back, the results have been going better and better for you, and now here you have it. Here's the win. And so, what does all this mean for you?
Validation more than anything, because we've been through we've all had our slumps and ups and
Yeah.
down, and I guess one of the craziest parts about my story is that because I've like held that rank one for so long before the pandemic hit, and
Mhm.
then it all just got like swiped away from
Yeah.
me. The question was like, am I ever gonna get back to it, or can I
Right.
ever even like touch that again?
Mhm.
So having a major drought was like a really mentally daunting thing for me, and I needed
Yeah.
to prove to myself I could still do it. And I figured Smash World Tour is back, tournaments are back. If I go to a lot of them, eventually it'll hit. And the way with me is when I win one, usually it causes a cascading effect to win the rest of them. So really
Yeah.
proud of myself, and I'm really curious to see how I'm going to perform the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, that has to be so validating, because there was such a tough time for you. I know you were even contemplating taking time off and everything, but yeah, you stuck through it, which is very impressive for the mental and everything. And it's really gotta feel good to have all that pay off. And I want to
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
ask you. Oh, sorry, I just wanted to ask you about the cascading effect you mentioned. I thought that was really interesting. So, do you feel that you've kind of built a momentum with this win, that you think, you're gunning for number one this year, or you're trying to win another one this year? What do you have a particular goal? Like, what are you feeling, or what are you wanting to do, I guess, off of this win here?
I mean, I think that if I can consistently beat iBDW, like specifically him, I could
Mm,
actually end up as rank one at the end of the year. I think when it
wow.
comes to, I think when it comes, there's also Leffen. Those like the two players that have the biggest edge on me. Leffen especially, but I think with the way I played at Gommel, and also the fact that I now have no excuse to lose except my own mistakes, not controller mistakes, which is very nice. With that being said, I think it's gonna be that much harder for opponents to beat me when I'm playing on. When it comes to Zane,
Mm,
yeah, Zane I haven't beaten in a very long time, but just matchup specific wise, I really every time I fight him, I always feel like it's not just like a hopeless thing. It's
oh,
simply just like a having your number on a certain day, and like if you're on and you know how to beat each other, there's no reason that it shouldn't go back to the way it was. He's had a huge edge on me for a very long time, and he
mhm,
is pretty basically rank one right now. But simply looking at it from a Marth Puff standpoint,
mm,
as opposed to a Fox Puff standpoint, Like I truly believe Fox is designed to like fucking destroy Puff.
Right.
Whereas
Okay.
Marth, it's more of a honest matchup, I guess. Like he has pivot tippers, but those are hard to hit consistently all the time. Puff has her cheese too. And now that I sort of understand matchup more and I know how to beat Marth now, especially with the edge guards I've been working on, Marth
Ah.
killers, and some other secret things, like I'm much more optimistic, and this was very recent changes that I made, especially with the new controller.
Oh.
So I really want to fight him again.
Oh, that's exciting. I mean, that's really exciting to hear that you're making a lot of these changes. And man, there's a lot of things a lot of places we could go from that. Of course, we're not going to ask you to divulge any secrets beforehand, but yeah, I mean, great to hear your take on Fox Puff versus Marth Puff too. I think some people think Marth can be worse or they can be about the same, but yeah, I mean, you with all that experience and everything, it's pretty interesting. And I think one thing I want to take this and shift it just slightly, talk about a different change I noticed. I saw one of your tweets when you were at Gommel before, the end of it, and you were saying you wanted quote the sweatiest foxes to help you warm up, which you then said maybe you could have phrased it a little differently, but nothing wrong with that. I was interested by this when I really thought about it because I think for whatever however people may respond to it, it's just been a while where you hadn't been playing friendlies with a lot of people, and then there was a public call for I want these people to grind with, and I don't know how new this is, but I wanted to kind of call attention to it and say, this is also. Do you think that something like this contributed, or maybe not, or how do you feel about the change about this as one of the many changes you've been making? I guess.
You're saying in regards to like, could you like repeat the last half of that question, the specific part
Sure.
of my
So
answer?
basically, I'll say, did your stance on friendlies changing impact
Oh yeah,
your
yeah.
results lately?
Yeah, yeah, the longest time I legitimately, and I still stand by this. I think that was a direct factor of the me having the success that I did.
Mm.
I felt like I had a very large edge in the meta at the time because it looked like no other puff had really caught up to what I was doing at the moment. And when everyone was like constantly begging to play me or wanting to play me, I thought to myself like, like gaining everything from this, and I'm gaining nothing. In fact, I'm losing a lot more. My job
Mm.
gets a lot more difficult. Probably lose a lot more often to you guys. And I was thinking about like, what is the reason? What is my impetus to like actually
Sure.
give you guys this intel that I have? Why can't you earn it the same way I earned it by not fighting against you, but fighting you only in bracket? Because I can know a matchup, but again, the Fox matchup is very different from the Mango matchup or the Leffen
Mm.
matchup or the Mute King or Armada matchup. Me
Mm.
and Crunch always treated these as different matchups and almost like an arms race, right?
Yeah.
But what happened was over the course of the pandemic, I thought like, man, did I just get way shittier at melee? That wasn't really the case. What was the case is that other Puff players just started to catch up, got very close to, I would say like maybe like 80% to 85 as to like my peak, and they're getting really really good. And all these other top players were now able to play against them, and the strategies employed against them eventually ended up working against me. So when it came down to it, like that was the quick and dirty. It was just
Oh, so it's just a numbers game, huh?
it
It
was a
was just
matchup. It
yeah,
was it
yeah.
was no one had really played. No one had really been able to show the matchup the way it's supposed to be played, or in my opinion, the way it should be played. But now it's just like, what is that? iBDW pop on emote. Oh my god. Sorry, I was almost threw up. But everyone got a lot more familiar with it too. At the same time, I got a lot more familiar with the current Fox meta and the current box players and the way peak players
Yeah.
approach things. Every character just got pushed way higher. But that's the
Right.
reason
Right.
I enter these tournaments. But like today, I'm entering, TMT West Coast after my ultimate run. Like because I love that bracket. I want to keep on playing, and I think it's the best way to warm up for a tournament. And with double down around the corner, like why not, right? So
Yeah, for
it's just
sure, for sure.
familiarizing yourself with that new meta.
Yeah, and you don't have to elaborate on this at all, but I am curious about this. So this could be a simple yes or no, but solo battle, a puff from Europe, has some techniques. It seems you've taken a little bit of an interest in that. Have you taken a lot of interest in that, or just a little?
Sorry, I was clicking with the tab. Solo battles puff. I want to say thank you. I think I have won some sets I wouldn't have won without
Mm.
his flexing of his clips on Twitter. His simple things too, drill into jump rest. Can't believe it's been 20 years before someone just said you can do it consistently at 100. I don't like rely on it to win, but it's an extra option, which is already really good. But I really like when someone pushes that idea forward and pushes the, every little tool the Puff can have in this meta is that much more important, especially versus Marth, especially guaranteed edge guard tools, especially like just ways to counter cheese. Like the whole game is a dairy farm at this point. So like I'm not lying. Like can we be honest? Like
man,
it's becoming touch of death, and that's really what it is. So whereas solo battle and some of the other Puffs really have this talent to break down the game into its constituent parts. I've never had that talent, as you guys know. I'm really bad at analysis and like being a lab rat, but I'm really good at innovating on the spot and like not application and not letting pressure break me. So like I'll discover things by accident very often. And again, it just comes at the moments of the highest pressure and makes diamonds when you're on that hot seat versus Zane or versus like Mango, and you're like, shit, I need to win this somehow. What can I do? And your fingers kind of guide you into a new surprise. So
and hey, well said on that. Speaking of being in the hot seat and important situations, it's time for what we've all been waiting for. All right, let's talk about it. Me and you, Hungrybox, let's talk about the thing we're really here for today, all right? Let's stop talking about this nerd stuff and start talking about the reverse pop-off. The meta changed last weekend. I don't know if you heard. The meta changed last weekend when you defeated iBDW, and then it was not you who popped off despite struggling with him for a long time, and you mentioned how important it was to beat him earlier, but it was actually he who popped off on you. And there's a lot of talk going on about how okay it was, if you're cool with it. He said it was a joke. So what I want to do right now, Hungrybox, is I want to know, how, without guiding anything, I want to know how you felt about it, and let's just go from there. What was it like for you in the moment, and what's it been like for you looking back on it?
So I think the best way to summarize it is Moist Critical made a video about it. It's now number 2 or number 1 on trending and gaming in the world. And it's gone to the point now where the storyline of Gommel isn't me ending a 2-year drought. That became the storyline of the tournament. It's like that's the way things work. I'm very used to that. So it's like in a weird kind of way, Cody, he made me not get as excited to win, but also he seemingly countered the entire narrative of the tournament. So in hindsight, looking back at it, I'm starting to get a bit of angst towards it, but it's also like hilarious to look back on. And it's moments like that, like the moments that when it happens, the moment you're just like, what in the fuck is going on? But then you look back at it and you're like, this entire game and community is so silly. No wonder it's still around, right? One day someone throws a crab at you, another day like this happens, like, and so for some reason it seems to follow me all the time. I don't know why.
That is strange. I don't know how that happens.
There's always an entire new episode of a TV drama whenever I go on the main stage, and so, but it's like that's what makes the game special that I feel. So in regards to all of that, looking back, it was funny. In the exact moment that it happened, I was low-key weirded the fuck out. But
you were
then
weird.
while
you weren't mad. You weren't mad or anything.
It wasn't mad because you know why? He told me about it ahead of time.
How far ahead?
Wow, sorry. Thanks for the bits, Willy Boyle. Holy shit. He told me about it, and he said, next time you win and pop against me, I'm going to pop off back on you. He mentioned it like a month or 2 ago. So when he did the first, and he started short hopping towards me, like when he did that, I'm just like, and then I sat there and I looked at him and I remember like, oh yeah, you told me about this and now you're doing it. And I was looking at him just like him having his moment, him doing it. Yeah. And I'm just like, I bet you're proud of yourself, aren't you, kid? Like I'm a little pat in the face, like, there you go.
Yeah. But then he held you, right? And so that, that probably wasn't part of the thing.
He grabbed my fupa, which if you know, you know.
Yeah, if you don't, you don't.
I put that comment on Moist Critical's video. It has like 15,000 likes on it now.
Holy God.
Now the Fupa is part of the Melee canon. It's now part of the Hoopa, I guess, is now part of the canon.
Beautiful.
Iceberg. So the reason he grabbed onto it is because, like I was saying earlier, he's not used to popping off
Right.
like a real legend. And
Oh,
so when you
yes.
do it, you have to get ready because you're gonna take a few days off of your life. It's unhealthy for you because you have to scream that loud. And I think now when he did it, the same thing happened to me when I fainted. You scream
Right.
too loud. Damn, Willie, thank you. Holy shit. When you scream too loud, the blood leaves your head, I think, and I think it goes towards your diaphragm, I believe is a science, or
Okay.
some other
Okay.
muscle. And that's why
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
lightheaded. Because you need your diaphragm, that's this muscle right here when you're singing, that's what allows you to make really, really loud noises. And I'm pretty sure that's why it happens. So he held on to me because he was about to fall. And now I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, what if he had done all that and just immediately fainted right in front of me?
Oh, jeez.
And I just looked down at him. I think that would have been like ESPN front page. Like if that had happened,
Yeah.
I legitimately thought that would have been one of the most insane moments in the entire
You
history.
try to revive him right there. That's just a moment.
Just like
Yeah.
no. Instead of doing CPR, I just kind of just fist bump his hand and
Oh
walk away.
no.
It would have been violent, dude. It would have been
Oh
a violent moment.
no.
It could have gone a lot of ways, but he held on to me, and
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Well, I mean, it's good you had awareness. It's good you were a good sport about it. And I think the angst, maybe some of the frustration you feel about the narrative is very understandable. And that's again why I wanted to start our conversation today with, what the win meant for you, because, I mean, that's important. That's for you. I mean, I know the larger community is going to have its own set of things to talk about, but for you, I think that's what really matters going forward. So I wanted to highlight that for you, and everything else, and they were going to listen for the pop off story anyways. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really glad to hear that it seems like it's gone all right, and yeah, I mean, I
Well,
think I don't think you'll get
people
less
are
clouded from
yeah, people are like already asking me what my counter pop off meta is going to be, the anti pop off
it.
meta.
Oh, okay.
I have a few options, Maybe
Oh,
I could
can
just
we hear one?
yeah, I could, I read this so often, and I say like I was because there's been so much comment talking about it, and people have been like, guys, that wasn't even that cringe compared to the theatrics and acting that HBox does when he wins. People
Mm,
still think that like when I like pop off and win,
I was going to ask about this.
it's like a personal thing or because I want the content. No, it's because like I'm just like weird like that. I don't know how to describe it. It's like literally when I'm that focused on a match, I think the reason no one else pops off that hard is because no one else to this day has played Puff in a top 8 situation like that. Try playing Jigglypuff against a Fox that good and feel how fragile the game is. And when you hit, a roll in rest read, like, yeah, I'm gonna scream out loud because I'm surprising myself.
There was so much
It's a stress
tension.
relief.
There it was building.
There's
Yeah.
so much tension. Like
Yeah.
you can't half-ass the game. Just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play. Like no, you can't autopilot versus Cody versus Mango versus Zane. Well, against Mango, you can autopilot at Genesis because I don't know what the fuck that was. But when he's playing on, like
Right.
you cannot, right? Like you need to
Yeah.
have every single thing like on it. And I think the more people like that refuse to believe that or accept that, I just realize like it's not that they refuse to accept it. It's that they just have never been good enough at something to feel that feeling. I think, especially at a video game like Melee. Maybe if I was in their shoes, I would have been judgmental too. I would have said like, no, it's what's this guy doing? But like, I think that when you invest yourself that hard into it, it's like I'm not the only person that's ever like popped off. Like a lot of
Right.
people do it, and the
I've
whole
done it.
premise of it, yeah, you have too. I mean, you have one of the most insane iconic pop-ups of all
Yeah.
time. So I'll ask you the question, Kevin. When you popped off, was it a close game, or was it just a sweep, or why was the reason that you did it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of my more iconic ones, especially, was when I was frustrated because of the crowd, and then also the games were usually really close, and so there was a lot of like, yeah, I'm happy for it, but also I showed you guys, and so there was a lot of feelings there in it, and so I think it's a little different perhaps, but I think in the same way, you're always full of a lot of feeling when you play, and that helps you, release it as opposed to keeping it stuck somewhere or not letting it release and flow properly. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think Some I think people are confused by it because they may not be as physical themselves, and I think some people, if I had to add anything onto it, I think there's a half and half opinion where some people are like, well, I think his IRL ones are legit, but then some of the net play ones, I think he's playing it up for stream or whatever. And I'm not telling you that it is or isn't. I'm just telling you that you'll hear various degrees of it. I don't know if you
Oh,
have anything to say about that.
look, if I'm streaming and the chat is egging me on, yeah, we'll be cheesy. We'll fucking hammer it
Okay,
up.
okay.
But if I'm like at a
The hat
tournament
gets
competing,
thrown. The hat's for
yeah,
content, right?
I throw the hat. I have a fucking whale plush. I throw against the wall. I act
Yeah,
like a fool because it's fun. It's funny. Like
yeah.
people, do people really think when they decide to become like streamers or content creators for a living that just doing this is like entertainment? Like there's wrestling and then there's the WWE. Which one has more viewers?
Right.
By like 100x margin. And it's not that I approach it to everything. I think streaming, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Being an actor on a stage and being someone who wants to entertain, yeah, like let yourself let loose a little bit. When I'm on like a competitive circuit though, and I'm fighting for my rank and I'm fighting for like my own like respect, like I don't have to go to every event, but I want to. I'm going to every event this year because I want the throne back. I want rank one bet. I
Yeah.
want to prove myself that I can do it. So yeah, when I do it like on those stages, no, it's because I really just fucking wanted it.
Yeah.
But people, I don't think everyone's ever gonna understand that, and that's okay. But like I know how I feel about it, and that's why I'm gonna keep doing what I do.
Well, I mean, I think it's important for you to be able to talk in a because I almost feel like there's the H box space and then there's almost the everyone else space. It almost feels like to me sometimes, and so I think it's really good that you're coming onto this show and everything else so that you can put your take on these things here because I'm not here to tell you how you feel or how you're supposed to express yourself. I'm just here to ask the questions and then see how you respond. And so I think it's good to explain yourself and let people do what they will with it. And if they don't believe it and they don't think you're being genuine, that's one thing, but I don't have any reason to think that you don't feel these things genuinely and you're not physically expressive. So I get it. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, and you act like I've never been like popped off on. Like, do I take to Twitter and complain about it? Like, no. Well, no. Whenever anyone has like crazy antics and then they do after the win, wow, who am I to judge? Who am I to ever judge what someone
That
does
would
after
be
a win?
surprising though. That would be
It,
fun. Imagine you did though.
yeah, I look like a hypocrite. With that. Come on.
Yeah.
I prefer people let loose when they win. I prefer like let's feel something for once. You know,
Sure.
like damn. That's the way I
No,
see it.
one last question regarding all of this, and this might be part of your counter pop-off strategy. Um, Imagine a set ends. It's a close set. You see your opponent who lost starting to pop off. Now, do you think that there's some sort of world where it's a ritualistic, you pop off with them, it almost becomes like a pop off dance battle, right? And it escalates and elevates. Do you think there's a world where like one of you's rolling around, the other one's kicking the chair or whatever, like you're trying to it becomes a battle outside the battle. Do you feel like there's a world that happens?
Evan, you know what happens when two grown ass men playing a party game start taunting louder and louder in person at each other?
What happens?
We're just gonna start fighting, dude. I mean, I'm all
Okay,
for it.
okay,
It's like hockey. Why do you think they allow it in hockey? We'll swing.
okay,
I'm
okay.
down. Why? Like I don't know. Obviously, no, you can actually do it. But like when emotions run hot, like someone's gonna swing. Mango said on multiple occasions, if I do it again, he's gonna just fucking snuff me in the face. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, like we've been doing this years long. I'm not gonna hold it against you. You know, we gotta we gotta release the tension.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So maybe we don't have dance battles. Maybe that's not the future of pop-offs. Good. Good. Fair enough.
I can't.
Noted.
I think we're as assigned players. I think we to be more serious. Like we know better than all that. But like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Like if it just keeps happening, like I'm just gonna start bringing props on stage. I might bring like two actual characters and just
Yeah.
pour them on his head while he's doing it. Like there's
Oh
just a lot
man.
of things we can do, and then we get into the entertainment category. We
Right.
come the WW Smash Bros. You know, I'm all for it.
Oh
I don't know.
boy. And so I'm looking forward to the HBox run Smash World, but yeah, I mean,
Bring it, Mega.
this would be a lot of fun. And I'm glad we gotten to go down this road, but I tell you, we are going to have to make sure that we can give everyone else space for their questions too. So thank you for indulging all of that. But right before we take everyone's questions, and if you want to take questions, you want to call in, exclamation radio melee, my chat, Toast chat. The link to the Discord will be there. You'll go in, submit topics here. We'll screen you. We'll get you in, all that good stuff. But in the meantime, right before we have people calling in while we screen some callers, we are going to do what's called the community voice. That's right. We had Ginger on last week, and he left a question for the YouTube comments. We're going to highlight 3 of them now. The question was, how do you form your opinion of top players? And I'll go ahead and read these off, and if you have any responses you want to give to any of them, by all means, go for it, HBox. But I'm going to start with Wave Dash here. Says, the longer conversations are the main thing for me. I remember the Scar and Toe show or the reads being a great way to learn about players, Laudandus and Cyrox for a couple examples. Summit commentary too. I think my first impressions of Ginger as a person rather than a player was his Summit 6 commentary. But yeah, I think a lot of people get to know everyone better from Summit and maybe this show too. That'd be nice. Learning a lot about pop-offs today, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And Richard Liu says, here's a plug, Radio Melees, hands down one of my favorite ways to learn about top players. Hey, that's HBox. I don't think much other Melee content introduces players or community members quite like Radio Melee. The guest-centered structure and quality of questions and answers, man, we got to pay this guy, have led me to appreciate players in ways I'd never expect. For example, I was always a fan of Ginger's Falco, but this episode helped me appreciate in his mindset and perspective times 100. And I think I cut you off a couple times there, HBox. What were you about to say?
I mean, I agree. It's important to have more immersive events like Summit or just like interviews, podcasts, whatever it is, because there's the player and there's the person. It's always there, and like a lot of times, personality is integrated into gameplay. And it's cool to see how those lines parallel across the course of their career. So I agree.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We got Seabass9504 here with the last answer. They're saying definitely the content that people choose to put out in a social media is a big thing. If I have the chance to actually interact with top players, that takes precedence since some people have radically different online personalities. But I feel like the way top players interact with Twitch chat or respond to tweets, etc., to be some of the most useful data points in informing an opinion. And I think this is how a lot of people can figure out how people do things, is how their Twitter and their Twitch is. I know in particular, HBox, I think you do a lot of memes on Twitter. How do you feel? How do you feel that does for the audience? Do you feel like, I guess that's endearing, huh? The memes get the goons coming, huh?
It's really straightforward. If you see something and it makes you burst out laughing, like actual air leaves your nose or mouth, it's probably gonna hit. So
Okay.
when I saw the stupid me and iBDW Wojak, the chat thing, I saw it. I'm just like, there's no at the moment I tweet this out, it's gonna spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And so I did. Like, I'm just like, why wouldn't I? It's so on point. It's so on the nose. Little things like that. There was the guy who DJ'd his pop off. I retweeted that one.
Oh, that was good.
There's the crappy MS Paint one that the guy did in record time. There's all sorts of things, and those things. Yeah, it's poking fun, but believe it or not, it actually gets a lot more people's eyes on Melee.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good thing. It's a very good thing, actually.
Cool deal. Yeah, definitely. Social media, I think, one of the biggest ways to outreach right now, and I think you really hold it down there for sure. So yeah, important for top players to think about, but also just a good conversation for everyone to have. How do we figure out who we want to interact with, and how do we make our impressions of these top players?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. Just the more zany, wonky moments happen, the better it'll be. And I think one day when someone gets very, very angry that a Steve just 3-stocked them in Ultimate, they're gonna get suplexed through a table, and we're gonna enter a new era of Smash Bros. It'll be a lot more lawsuits, but
we're gonna patch things ourselves, or we're gonna patch ourselves up.
Right.
All right. On that optimistic and loving community note, let's go ahead and move from there into some caller questions. First of all, we've got Ninja Mushi calling in. What's up? How you doing, and where are you calling in from? What's your question for us today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I come from Texas. Not really involved in the Melee scene here, but
Okay.
but yeah. So my prompt is an age-old question, but I think it might be fairly relevant to where things are heading right now.
Mhm.
With Zayn taking losses exclusively to Sheik these past 3 tournaments, HBox sometimes hitting a wall against certain Fox players, Jmook possibly struggling against characters like Yoshi and Puff, and so on. How dependent are tournament results on bracket luck, and what can top players do to offset their bracket demons? Do you think we'll see top players starting to rely on secondaries more like it used to be, or just grind out their tough matchups and remain headstrong to win with their solo mains? I'm just curious what you guys have to say on it.
That's a
That's a
good
really good
question.
question.
Timely question too. But yeah,
Yeah.
please. I think this is a great question for HBox to tackle. So by all
Yeah.
means, sir.
In a weird way, like first, I compare it almost to like when someone's like campaigning for like either they're running for like an office or something like that. They only go to states where they need it the most. They're not going to go to a state where they already do well on. You know what I mean? And when I say that is like I'm not going to spend 2 hours a day practicing Peach Puff or Sheik Puff or a matchup I'm really really good at and like or Falco Puff. Right? Those are like I know at the back of my mind, and no one's like really giving me trouble there almost at all with it. I'm gonna spend all my time warming up, either in brackets or playing against like Fox players. Fox players are like 99 or 95% of all my losses. I think this past year feel like they've been to Fox, and it's just like that's where it always is. And then there's Zane, but it's not Marth. It's not a Marth problem. It's a Zane problem. It's not really a Falcon problem. It's a Wizzy problem, and in some cases none or whatever. There's these players that are that specific to it. So to answer your question about bracket luck, yeah, you're gonna want a good bracket more than a bad bracket. And the question is, you get good brackets more often if you are higher seeded. But the way it plays out, like what was it? Cody had to play Mango, right? So
Yeah, it's
Cody
not
earned a
always
higher.
true.
He got second seed, and he had to play Mango, which most people will be like, that's a bad seed. But then it's because Mango's results weren't as good as last year, and then he dropped down. Sometimes it really doesn't matter. And there is RNG to it. I'm not gonna lie. There's some factors you can't control. The best thing you can do is be prepared to beat everyone, and that's why my demon iBDW against him this time. I wasn't going in rushing in like a dummy. I played the ledge. I played the defensive game. I wanted him to bleed out, and it was a very very close set in either case, and it's just part of the way the meta develops. So yeah, just one of those matchup specific things that I wanted to try out.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, my own take on the bracket luck situation is I actually think bracket luck is almost getting a lot more relevant right now with so many people having matchups they're struggling with more. So I think it is a reasonable concern, but I also think, will it matter from tournament to tournament? Like if, for example, what is HBox going to continue to being able to do similarly against Cody, for example? Like that would mean that there would be less bracket luck involved for him specifically, right? So it's going to depend. And we saw Zane thinking about maybe going Puff for Sheik, but I've also heard maybe he's going to stick it out, and so we're going to kind of see what he ends up doing. It's gonna be an interesting time, but at this very moment, yeah, it is unpredictable what people are gonna do, and it's hard for anyone to make like any big changes because there are so many big tournaments back to back. That being so that more makes sense that people aren't probably gonna try and pick up a secondary at the moment. Now, maybe once this big uh few weekends of tourneys is over, maybe people will start considering that and everything like that. But at the moment, probably not. But yeah, there's been considerations for it. We don't know what Jmook is gonna do about Puff. HBox here has been giving him a real hard time. It doesn't look like he's gonna stop. We're again Zane with Sheik lately. We're gonna see. Now he's been going game 5, so things could just start going the other way, but we'll see. And so yeah, it's an
On that, by the
interesting
way,
situation. Oh, you please comment.
Jmook can pick up Fox and beat me with Fox by the end of the year if he wanted to.
You think so, huh?
I know so. It does.
But what about all the practice you have?
It's
Doesn't
Fox
matter.
Puff.
It's
Sometimes
Fox Puff.
it's a dishonest matchup on both sides. Like it doesn't matter. Like that you can just lose for seemingly no reason at times. So um, I've seen it because Swedish Delight was a Sheik player just
Oh,
like
that's right.
and the most infamous Sheik player to get me to the most game 5/game 4s, get so close to time and never was able to beat me. And then he switches to Fox that he picked up like a month ago and he takes a game off me immediately. I'm just like, yeah. the game is the way it is. I don't agree with all of Melee's mechanics and the way the matchups work, but yeah, it'll be a much easier path for him. And if he has a Pocket Fox to beat me, then Jmook is that much one step closer to maybe being rank 1 one day. So that's my call.
Yeah, and so Jmook, if you're listening to this Radio Melee episode, there's the HBox tip for you, and he doesn't give those out for free usually, so take that with what you will. But yeah, so I think that's an important take. Well, actually, let me ask you this, HBox, while we're kind of on the topic. Do you think basically that Sheik Puff is kind of the reverse? Do you think basically it's not even worth it for him to try with Sheik?
I want to take games off me, right? But the thing with Sheik Puff is that Sheik has to play honestly. Sheik has to hit Puff 10 times, or win neutral, 7, 8 times to take the stock off of Puff. Puff needs one up air.
Okay.
And you might think, well, it's the same with Fox. You only need one grab with Fox. No, because Fox has DI options. And Fox, when you whiff, you're taking 40%. And guys like iBDW and Leffen, they need 2 or 3 openings to eliminate Puff stock every single time. What's up, Toph? And like when it gets to that point, when it gets like that fragile, you have to play to your strengths. You have to play using the tactics that you employ, and that's just the way matchups are. And then with the whole Peach thing, where Peach, Puff historically destroys Peach, you have guys like Laud who pushed it forward really, really hard, and you have to seriously know your stuff still, even against it. The same way I can upset Foxes, Laud destroys, and I'm correct if I'm wrong, destroys every other Puff that isn't me. Can you think of a single
Puff? I agree with HBox.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome to the program, Toph.
Yes.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
What's up, Toph?
What's up, dude? You guys are talking about
we were talking
secondaries.
About secondaries, and we were also talking about, with so many people having their really hard matchups, like HBox with certain Foxes, Zane with Sheik, Jmook with HBox, or whatever. How much is bracket luck, or what are people going to do about this? Are they going to grind it out with their main, or are they going to pick up a secondary? And so we were kind of just sorting a lot of that out. So what's your take on that?
No, and I spoke with Zane after Gommel, and I was talking to him, and we were chatting for a while, and Zane was kind of like, okay, first of all, sure, I have a Sheik problem right now. I've been losing these Sheiks. I think he lost to Plup, Leffen, and Jmook like the last time they played, but
yeah. He
also was telling me well, first of all, I even brought up, I was like, is there any chance you're going to try Fox or something? I know you've got a decent Fox. And he's like, no. I'm going to figure it out with Marth. Like, I know I can do it. Even this tournament, I was really close. It's a couple little adaptations, couple things I need to change. And I kind of agreed with him where I think at that point, it's less of it's like you have a problem. It's like a problem matchup on paper. But at the same time, I think in practice, I think Zane's the kind of guy that he figures these things out. I think there's certain players in certain matchups, for Leffen, when Leffen picked up Sheik for Marth. I think for Leffen, I think that was the right call because I think it worked really well, and I think he is just enjoying playing that matchup more. But I think for somebody like Zane, he's going to stick to his guns. He's going to figure it out with Marth. I'm not really worried about him. We've seen that he's the kind of guy that figures matchups out, right?
Yeah. And HBox going to start going Nest for Fox. Better matchup.
There we go. You got those up airs. You're going to juggle them.
What's next, right? No one even knows.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the solo battle tips for that one are. But yeah, I think we've nailed down a lot of this here. We've gotten the insight on a lot of different perspectives. So we are going to go ahead and keep this moving here. But Ninja Mushi, thank you so much for calling in. You got any shout outs for us on your way out here today?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to shout out my friend Lamer, who's actually the world record holder for Legend Mana speedruns. Should check that out. We watch Melee tournaments together, even though we're pretty much just spectators, so it's a lot of fun. My girlfriend, not super into Melee, but she loves the HBox pop-off, so...
Nice.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, take care.
Thanks, bud.
Did you guys... obviously, first of all, I just got here, and... dope to have you, HBox. Good to see you. We talked about it? Yeah, what was that like? No... Can I just get the 10-second summary? I'm sure you guys fleshed it all out.
HBox. So basically, HBox wasn't mad about it. He knew it was coming, In the moment, he thought it was kind of weird, and
Oh,
then
I could tell.
later-
I could tell you was dude. You reacted like the funniest possible way.
I was weird
Oh
as
my
fuck out.
god,
I was just like,
Dude.
what? And then it hit me like a few moments after. I'm just like, do I need to get this? Like, and when he, he grabbed me, I'm like, Cody. That's what I said. I'm like, Cody, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
That's what I was
He was,
saying to
like,
him,
grabbing
what are
you.
you doing? Yeah, and the fainting thing makes sense now, but holy shit, what a moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a conversation to go back and listen to. HBox and I really did a deep dive on that one, so that's that.
I will go
It
back
was
and check that
special.
out.
It was special to get the HBox insight on that. He got a lot of interesting thoughts on that. But yeah, just another tidbit. Man, we are going to be talking about this one for a while. Next caller, please.
What are you gonna do?
I like turtles. Welcome to the program. Where are you calling in from? What's your question for us today?
Hello there, I'm calling from France, Paris. And my question is the following. Dear Hungry God, how does it feel having competed in this game for so long, since 2008? How do you keep up with the sleepy kids? And how long do you think you, and by extension, the older top meta players such as Mango, will be able to compete at the top level?
Fun
I
call.
have a rule because everyone's been asking me about when I'm going to retire, and it's very, very simple. Very, very simple. I will only retire from Melee after Mango does. If he is around until he's 40, I'll be around until I'm 40. And then as soon as he retires, I'm going to play for another year at least, just to show I could do it. And that's what it'll be. So until he's out, I'm in. Yeah. That's
When
basically it.
he hears this, you guys are going. Once he hears this,
Yeah.
you guys are going until you're like 90.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like when he retires, that's my time for retire. No, I'm just saying like whenever the retirement happens, it has to be only after he does. It might be 2 years, might be 1 year, might be one. You know,
but
one
Mango's
decade.
going to hear that, and he's going to say, "No, I'm not gonna let you one up me. I'm just going to keep going now."
And you see, that's where even though he calls me a pussy every single day, I try to interact with him. And even though when I walked up to him when I had my trophy, and he looked at it and he said, "It's a dark day for Melee Juan," and he walked away. When I held this trophy. Like,
said
Mango, I
that?
got one. I said, Tag, you're it. You win the next one. He's like, it's a dark day. He didn't want to talk to me. I was like, shit, dude.
It's a
It's
nice
wild.
trophy.
When he
It is a nice
wins, we're like dapping it up. I'm calling him to go. We're having beers together. When
Uh-huh.
I win this
Yeah,
this
no,
guy-
I believe me, I understand.
Joker art comes out. But no, it's just how it is. But there's always this like inherent respect. I think people know that now. We've both been doing this long and we're both like still competing. And like I think we just appreciate that with one another. Of course, it has to be said too, the comparison with Armada obviously being the only other guy in that contention. You know, the whole idea for GOAT arguments has always been like, is it Mango or Armada who has the edge? Mango won the summit, so he has the edge. Armada's right there, and HBox is the only one kind of like right outside that thing. That whole discussion has always made us wonder like what it would have been like had he stayed. And I think you know, I think people realize now that because he no longer plays, like, you know, Mango and Armada do feel the way about each other that they do. I wish it was different, but you can't force someone to play the game. And I think
Right.
he proved this shit more than anyone else. I mean, like, he's got the most consistent streak of all time. No one can touch that. But do I want to be considered the GOAT one day? And is that why I want to keep playing and playing and playing and, you know, get the most major wins? Someone said, I think, when I won Gommel, that officially ties me, Mango, and Armada for the number of super major wins that we have, or like big. something.
Wow.
Like it's now closer than ever, and yeah, like Mango's not having a great year. I had a bad year last year, but I am in love with the chase for number one. Like that, nothing makes me feel more like having a purpose than that. And so, Double Down, Smash Con, Smash Factor, Shine, all these events is just one more chance to prove who is actually the best.
Cool. So that's so your answer almost, it sounds like, to this question of keeping up with Slippy Kids and all of that stuff really isn't about the challenges themselves. It's about what's your purpose, what keeps you going, what gets you excited, and that's what it's about, is what you're saying.
Yeah, everyone has different motivations to do it. My motivation now has changed because now there's like this whole aspect of like Smash as content or Smash as entertainment. Whereas before that, I never needed to turn on my camera for 5 hours a day. I would stick, you know, I would go home, keep to myself, have my own personal life, and then at tournaments, my job was to compete, and that's what, you know, Team Liquid was paying me for: compete and make sure you win, no matter what else. All this that we have now is an indirect result of not just our love for the game, but people's fascination with the players of the game, their personalities, and how their personalities have uniquely and inevitably changed the storyline and the narrative for Melee so many times on a game that's 21 years old. And a very, very few games, if any, can say that. We're the only one of our kind, I feel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For sure. And I mean, that's well said on every front. I really love the focus on purpose there, because I do think that more than any of the external challenges is what's going to keep people going and going to allow everyone to adapt and keep themselves ahead of the meta. So I think really well said, really well covered, and yeah, I think that covers it for this question. I like Turtles. Thank you so much for calling in today. Got any shout outs for us on your way out?
Oh yeah, shoutouts to the French and European melee community. Shoutouts to FED2, the UK tournament coming up.
When is that?
It's in end of July, 28th July to the 1st of August. So it's in 3 weeks, roughly.
Probably the time right now I should announce, now that everyone's watching here, that I'm not going to Phantom in Australia. Because I'm attending TwitchCon in Amsterdam. So
TwitchCon's in Amsterdam. Have fun.
Yep. So I'll be in Europe actually for the first time in 6 years, in about 2 weeks. So, or whenever it is. So yeah.
Cool. Have a good time.
Surprise. Yeah. Shout outs to the European Smash community though, for sure.
Yeah.
No wrong answer there. I think Phantom's going to be awesome. I think TwitchCon in Amsterdam sounds really, really cool. So have a good time at that.
Yeah. I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we don't have another question lined up this second, so we might wind down, or I have another question prepared anyway that we were kind of talking about. Regardless of all that, we kind of talked about it a little bit anyway. Actually, you know what? This is my moment. I'm going to ask this thing that we've talked. Dude, this has come up in my stream so many times, especially when we're watching your matches, HBox. And I don't know if you're going to tell me anything about it, but I'll feel better. I'll sleep better at night knowing I asked. Hey, there's this really cool thing you talked about one time. You have talked about it one time, from my understanding, at Summit a long time ago, and it was this thing called bubble theory. You may remember it. You may have heard of it. And now people have many reactions to this, and that's because of the mystery of it all. Now, bubble theory, if I can remember what you said, it was something about understanding, conceptualizing the possible spaces that characters could be in, as well as considering probabilities for where they could be. But beyond that, who could say what it is or is not? And it was something you and Crunch worked on together. Now this is something, some people say it's basic, insert expletive spacing. Some people have other things to say about it, but boy, if this is the show for answers, I don't know what it is. And so, Hungrybox, I would like to directly ask you with this preamble, what is bubble theory?
Jesus.
Crunch, burn the books. No, burn them right now.
Like in Star Wars Episode 9,
Go
to the sacred text and burn it all down to the ground.
Just
The Last Jedi.
Basic fucking spacing, right? Melee, especially, is a very unique game in the amount of movement options that it gives you. And I think there is a proven, solved science. You mentioned probabilities and using a move based upon how often that person will be in that space. But sometimes, what if I told you that you could actually look back at your match and break down exactly how often you use a certain move, figured out what your most frequent move was, figured out its efficacy, and completely change your gameplay around that one move. That's all I'll say to it, because it goes deeper than that. But Melee is one of the few games that allows you to do that, and it allows you to apply, obviously stats, but they use stats in a game that has that level of platforming, that level of movement. You can use those stats in specific places, and you can sort of break down habits harder than anyone else has ever seen if you do it properly. It just takes a lot of dedication to it, I feel.
Okay, so you don't have to answer this, but I just want to ask it anyway. I thought you were saying earlier that you didn't do a lot of analysis or those types of breakdowns, does that mean someone else is doing it, or you're doing it in a very specific way, or something like that? We can move on from this, but I'm confused by this juxtaposition.
Actually, what I was talking about was, what me and Crunch used to work on, before the pandemic. Crunch retired from being my coach, and I actually just realized that GOML 2022 was the first super major that I won without a coach.
Well,
Since
congratulations.
Wow,
Yeah.
since like 2015.
All you.
So
Well,
that's
hey,
pretty
good
crazy.
So good stuff. So basically, what you're saying is bubble theory is dead.
No, it's
No,
not dead.
it's been changed in a secret way, and we don't know about it.
Listen,
think
PB, if you strike
when-
bubble theory down, it will
when
come
we-
back
when
stronger
we-
than it's ever been.
When Crunch and I had the goal of defeating Armada on his own turf at that fated DreamHack Winter 2015, when we had that goal,
Oh, yeah.
he literally drove up from Orlando. I was staying in Jacksonville. He stayed in my apartment for a week, and we really broke down the game into parts no one, including ourselves especially, had ever seen. The stuff we had discovered wasn't posted anywhere. It wasn't this thing that was talked about. Like, he had this way, because the guy, for those that aren't familiar, Crunch is my best friend and coach. He works at Google now. He's one of the smartest guys I ever knew. He had this way of seeing things. We would play board games together, and if the board game had anything to do with strategy or like deck building or something crazy like that, he played Magic. He was just really, really good at it. It's like he could see the coding in something that wasn't coded. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
Melee is coded, and so there's a quantitative way to change it, frame by frame. There's things that are always will work or never will work.
Mhm.
But there's so many variables and there's so many coin flips in a game like that moves that fast, that how you approach it directly dictates your success.
Right.
When it came to Armada, if we're fighting against a wall like him, a Fox player like him, we had to wall him back. If he dominated the ground, we had to dominate the air. So it became actual like a race of arms. Like, it felt like warfare in game. And I said, only put ourselves in the place where he's uncomfortable, and only do that. Never, ever, ever give him one shot of you giving him a free win or a free grab. If he doesn't do it, you're playing chicken. One of you has to budge. And I'm telling you, the Fox player will always budge first, because their fingers are moving much, much more faster. And their synapses are flaring much, much faster. And I feel when that happens, just the biological instinct is that I must perform because I only have so much stamina. So
You gotta
there's
make something happen.
there's a whole outside perspective of this game. So when box controllers were introduced, that's a whole discussion, different. But I think that broke down that theory, because with box controllers, you suddenly can play, I think, with like a third as much stamina and move even faster for that much longer. Like, a box player could do their inputs, I feel, for like 15 minutes rather than like an 8-minute game. That's the way I see it. But until then, yeah.
And you
Gotta
sort
go
of think that, like, with the advent of box controllers, you're going to start seeing people play more patient. They're high APM, but patient as well, because
Yeah. Like, patience is obviously the end all be all of almost anything, any game that requires reaction times and making quick decisions. Patience will always pay off in the more time. And what is the most tried and true way to describe Melee? If you got a guy who's bashing himself against the wall over and over, and you have a guy who's standing still waiting for the guy to mess up, who's gonna win? Like, 80% of the time, it's always it's a game of punish. Fighting games are a game of punish. Every once in a while, you have mangoes. You have people who can relentlessly put pressure, and when they're on, you have to take the pressure, and you're going to get hit, and he will win. But that doesn't happen often. That's the inconsistency of his results are akin and make sense with the style that he plays on. You know what I mean? He can bust her out and get 13th, or then win a summit and double reverse 3-0 Zane or whatever on FD. Like, that's the way he approaches the game. That's why he's got like the excitement factor that he does when he wins. Whereas with me, I'm always going to be the whiff punisher. I'm always going to be the autocorrect for Melee, and whenever you make a mistake, I will kill you. That's always going to be the way I play, because Puff just as a character can't rush in. But the really special thing is, in this current meta, you kind of got to be aggro. You can't just sit back the entire time and let the game happen to you, because there is counterplay for Pluff getting the ledge. There is counterplay for you hitting on a platform the whole time. It's all there. The best part about Melee right now is watching them And when they have that one sliver of an opening, when they're dash dancing back and forth, and maybe they trot a little too far, maybe they mess up a little input, maybe they jump a little early. You talk about bubble theory, right?
Yeah.
One more aspect I'll reveal of bubble theory is this. You don't have to be near them to change their behavior. You don't have to be anywhere near them to change what they're going to do.
The bubble is so big. It's such a big bubble.
Some could say it's endless.
Oh, it's an infinite bubble.
I remember
God,
you were talking a little bit at that one summit about how, the movements you would do on the side platform and how that would impact what your opponent was doing, without really threatening them at the time, right? Because obviously you're not near them and Puff isn't a long range character, but yeah, I always thought that was like super fascinating. Yeah. And I guess to something that I've wanted to ask you for a while, actually, that we kind of started talking about, that I was hoping you could dig into more, is like with Crunch. So Gommel being, again, the first major you've won without a coach, right? Something that I think you got an unfairly, and this is something I've been trying to emphasize on commentary, I think something that you got an unfairly bad rap for maybe like the last year or two is like, oh, HBox isn't labbing, or he's not using new technology. So, you've got guys like, let's say Solo Battle would be an example.
I actually talked to him about this a little bit.
You guys talked about it?
We talked about Solo Battle, and he talked about how he was doing new tech and everything like that, yeah.
Right. Because
I have my shooters in the chat, they'll just at me, they'll tag me in a post and be like, hey, HBox, look at this. I'm like,
check this out.
Thank you for the new weapon. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just little things like that. But again, grinding and labbing will only get you so far. Like one thing I do well is like I know how to fight. I know how to sit in that hot seat and feel no pressure a lot of the time because I've exposed myself to that high pressure environment so often to the point now where I almost barely feel nothing. So yeah, when I'm like feeling myself on stage or putting on these silly glasses or like laughing along, it's to keep my mental in that cool state. Like stay positive, stay happy, and you'll play well. But shout outs to the other guys that do it because I know I'm not the only person of their character who has discovered or taken things from other people. Like it's this collective set of knowledge in this impossibly complex game we keep trying to break down every single year.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, great breakdown, great discussion on all of that. And we've been messing around with the time frame of this episode a little bit, so we had another caller jump in here at the last second. We're gonna take them. We're gonna get you your community voice, and we're gonna bounce. But yeah, it's been a great talk all around. I'm really glad we got to talk about bubble theory. Boy, this guy was passionate about it. Anyway, let's take our caller. Welcome, ETOS, to the program. Where are you calling in from? What's your question for us today?
I'm calling from Minnesota. It's my 5th time on this show, by the way.
Welcome back.
My question is, how, speaking to what you just talked about, how do you think Jigglypuff can evolve as a character into the future, especially with the new tech being pushed forward by like EU puffs like Solo Battle, Kingu, Jamie, and more? Also, why do you think no one else can push Puff's play to the limits that you do? What makes you so much different than everyone else that's tried over the years?
Cool question.
It's going to sound weird, but I think the same reason that no one pops off to the extent that I do is also the same reason they weren't able to push the character there.
Bro, are you telling me if they start popping off, they start popping off?
It's a funny way to say it, but I think people they have trouble putting in, they can get to 80% or 85%. They can push that much of their entire psyche into it. But when you like actually lose yourself inside the game and make it feel like that's the only thing that there is, like that's when you can hit your max play. And again, I said it 3 times, I'll say it one more time. You cannot hit that until you have exposed yourself to the difficulties of a horrible bracket, to the absolute, anti-puff meta that has been established over the time. You have to just constantly face it head on. You have to lose over and over and over again until you can hit it. Losing is required. You cannot be the best without losing. That's one of my favorite things about fighting like this, or any sport in general. No shot you can ever be the best without having, you're just completely been rolled a few times. And I think that because I was that competitive from the age of 13, to go to as many locals as I did, to go to as many nationals as I did, to fly myself out to all these things as a teenager, to balance it all the time too, to play in these fucking online brackets and Ultimate and Melee every single day, I have created a lifestyle where it's not just something I'm okay with. I prefer having that pressure on me now. And Puff is a pressure character. She doesn't apply the pressure. She feels it. And that's what's special about her. But that's what makes her very difficult. She looks easy on the outside, but at the absolute top level, you have to control. You have to balance a balloon with knives, like I usually say, and juggle it. And that comes with just a lot of experience. So, will one day one person do it? I'm sure, but until they've been through the trenches like I have, it's hard to hit it that consistently, I feel.
I mean, that's well said on the latter part. I was curious about what you think on the former, how you think Jigglypuff will evolve as a character. I mean, one thing I could think of from hearing some people talk about Puff, seeing various technologies, finding more rest setups, more ways to combo into it. I mean, we've seen Tech Chase Rest, for example, but I'm wondering what else you think there might be.
The meta is rest everything. The meta, it's in one direction. Rest is Puff's best move. It's one of the best moves in the entire game. There's no reason to push the meta anywhere else as specifically as figuring out every possible instance of what can and cannot be rested within the human reaction time phrase window. Like if Wizzy played Puff, maybe he could rest a lot more stuff, but you gotta be practical too, right?
Yeah.
Crunch measured a lot of reaction times for a lot of players, and apparently I have one of the faster ones or fastest ones, which probably helps with it too. Like reaction tech chase, when you know which way they're gonna roll, it's one of the easiest things you can pull off. Try reading or reacting to which way they're gonna roll when it's loser semis and you're about to lose $1,000 and you have an entire crowd full of, rowdy Canadians yelling at you. It's different, it's different. So yeah, optimizing those rest setups will be the future of the game. But then the guy who's able to use them in those situations will be the winner.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's pretty much how it seems to me too. And there will be some more optimizations as well. You were talking about in the Marth matchup, for example, earlier. There will be some edge guard setups and Marth killers and various other things that are going to be there and things we don't know about and things like that. But yeah, it seems like there is going to be more just general tech for Puff coming out, and it seems like she's going to be a lot more explosive with the rest, even if she does maybe take her time still. So going to be more of a balance of that, and I think all matchups is what it sounds like.
That's the way it's going. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be an interesting future to look forward to. Not just with that matchup with Puff, but even like the Marth Sheik stuff.
Yeah.
Do you keep playing the lopsided matchup? Do you keep pushing it, or do you finally give up on the character and try it? I have been a proponent of never giving up on the main, ever. But not everyone believes it, and not everyone has the same level of success. I'm just maybe just a little crazy. That's why I've stuck with Puff, and always will be. It's the only character I'll ever play in bracket.
I think that's the cool thing about Melee is the kind of game where you can do that, right? Like like you talk about these are bad matchups, but they're still bad matchups because there's so much depth to each character. You can still push them. Versus, if it was like a simpler game, maybe you feel like, well, I need to pick up a secondary at this point. My character can't do it. But you can just get so much more skillful than your opponent.
So look, when Armada pulled the young Link, I got desperate. I thought, I can't beat this. This is impossible. I'll try the Ness. I'll try the Fox. I'll try the Falco. But where did I finally find the most success by and far? Sticking to the guns. Home. Go back home. Back to Puff.
Yeah. I mean, that's well said.
When I figured out with Fox, Falco, or Ness or secondary, it's good for the moment. When you figure it out with Puff, you're fucked for life. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's well said. Yeah, it's all. I think in Melee, especially hard game as it is, and enough difficult, deep matchups and difficult opponents as it is, if you could do it with one character, it makes things a lot easier. For sure. But yeah, I mean, I think HBox well said on all of that. ETOS, I think we've covered it. You got any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Shout outs to Gommel. Great event. I lost my voice screaming for Jmook. That's my boy. Sorry, HBox. Shout outs to yeah. Shout outs to Toph for being there this weekend. Hung out with Hope a bit. And then shout out to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah, Ben, my boy. Hey, Preeminent was there. Yeah.
All right. Take care, gamer.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, we've asked plenty of our questions. We've taken plenty of callers, and there's only one thing left to do, Hungrybox, and that is the community voice. A question that you've got to ask for the YouTube comments, or if you like for the community at large, something you want people to respond to, something you might be curious about, or something you just think is funny. We've had questions on here before. Who would Elijah Wood main? We've had questions. What would make you go to your first local? So it could be serious, it could be silly, it can be whatever you want. We did just have the one about what makes you inform your opinion of top players last week. So really can be any sort of thing. But yeah, this is your time, your moment, your question. What are you thinking, man?
Be like a melee question, right?
Melee community. I mean, it
Could
yeah,
even be, yeah. It technically doesn't even have to be melee, but it would be directed to the melee community.
I play both games. But I'll ask a question for one for melee, one for ultimate.
Ooh, okay.
So melee, I had this like what if situation, like would you press the button, right? And the button is you need to sacrifice one current top 5 player permanently to bring back Armada permanently. Do you do it?
Wow.
And who do you choose?
but not. They don't die, right? The sacrifice.
No, they fucking die, Kevin.
Okay, well, I'm not pushing that button.
No.
matter
I think
what,
Just-
man.
no, they don't. No, that you
It's a
they're-
retirement.
they're
It's a retirement
it's
for unretirement.
broken. They can't play anymore. Yeah, something like
Okay,
that, or they just don't want to play anymore. The question is, do you do it, and who do you switch it with? So I'm actually curious what the answer to that question would be. And the top 5 would be we'll bring Mango out of it because if you sacrifice Mango, you're dumb. We'll put in Wayne, Cody, me, Leffen, and I guess Plup or Amsa or
I think J-Mook's been
J-Mook,
putting
yeah.
himself in that conversation lately.
We'll call it those 5: J-Mook, me, Plup, or J-Mook, me, Zane, Cody, Leffen.
Interesting. So, which of the foxes do you want to push the button on, HBox?
Well, but he brings back Armada, right? So
Yeah,
he's trading one. He's trading
He'd
one.
rather
for
play
another.
against Armada than another one, right? Nah, well, all right, fair enough.
Hitchbug's like, get Armada out of here.
I would. I don't know. I'd switch one Swede for another. They're both gonna give me like the exact same amount of trouble in the Fox Puff.
Mhm.
So yeah, probably Leffen for Armada.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Toph, are you pressing?
No, because I don't know. I think that nah, man. I like who we got, and I feel like the people that we currently got. I don't want to influence anybody's answers in the YouTube comments, but I feel like the people that stuck around to where we are now,
fair enough.
I think that should be honored, and
Fair enough.
and also, like people. It's just we got so far in the meta the way things were. I don't want to mess with we got a recipe for success right now, right? For me, it's the butterfly effect. You change one thing, who knows what the hell happens.
Right.
All
right.
right. And then my other question, I mean, it's actually an ultimate one, but it's very topical.
Okay.
We've all played Melee, but you guys both played Brawl, and you guys both dabbled. Kevin and I actually had a rivalry in Brawl in North Carolina. He played Martha, I played King Dedede. It was a great rivalry. Yeah, we were both ranked in our state. And then when we played Brawl, there was Meta Knight, and Meta Knight was so obviously the best character to the point where he was banned in certain rule sets. He was the only character I think that got banned officially in certain rule sets. Then you had Smash 4, the DLC came, Bea was broken as shit. But the game died out. And I think Nintendo released Ultimate quickly enough to not so that the scene didn't worry about banning Bea. It's like the game was made dead anyway, who cares? Now it's Ultimate. Now there's a question mark if there's any other Smash game in sight anytime soon. The game is no longer being patched. The number one character in the game now is Steve. And that happened recently, actually. But what the problem with Steve being the best is that the tech for him and the options are exponentially growing more than any other character. Now a bunch of 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds are picking up the character, winning super majors with him, and it's getting pretty scary. So my question is, if MK Leo, who is the protagonist of the scene, the stalwart of the game, right? The one man who can do it. If he gets rolled by Aquila or one of these Steve players from NA, if he loses 3-0 to them, will the character get banned within the year?
Yes.
See?
You think?
And the thing is, right now, Smashers are more knee-jerk than ever because of social media, because of what they see. Will it happen? I'm saying not within like 2022, within 365 days of Leo losing to a Steve, will the character be banned?
I think the only way something like that probably doesn't happen is if there are counters to him that come up, or if I don't know what the leadership in that game is like, but in Melee we struggle to do much rule set changes, and so if there's a leadership problem there and it's hard to organize and there's no committee or anything, then it might just be for that reason. And they're like, well, he's not broken enough. It's not everyone in top 8 using them, because that's what people were saying about Meta Knight. It was like only 7 of 8 people in top 8 using them. You can't ban him.
And then, people, and the thing is, like, remember, I was the Puff player in Melee. Like, I had so much discredit to my life, and I'm glad now people realize that she's not this like overly broken piece of shit. All the characters are pretty good, but she still requires the work. Steve in that game, if you fix like 3 things, like minecart and how often you get diamond and the ledge stalling tech that they have with the platforms, they fix those, the character will be fine. But there's no more patches to the game. It's the first time where it's like the game's done. As far as we know, there's nothing else being touched to it. What we have is what we got, and it feels unfinished. He's like the one character they forgot to nerf. So now we as a community have to decide whether or not that nerf should have happened, or do we just keep him? If Leo,
I think what would like the prerequisite for a ban would be like, so Leo, loses, plays a character where people say, well, okay, but hang on a minute, maybe he played a character where that character doesn't give Steve a hard time, whatever the case is with Steve Byleth. If Leo can't pick up, because I've seen a lot of talk about certain characters that do really well against Steve. I've seen people say one of the answers to Steve might be Hero.
Yeah, Hero,
for example, right? And so maybe the meta just turns into something where you just need a counterpick for him. And I think if that's the case, if he's got bad matchups and people just have to pick up a pocket character, then it's a different story. I think one thing that's pretty common with these actual ban-worthy characters is that they need to have a matchup spread where you can't just pick up a counterpick. I think that's going to be a big part of that. And I guess something that we can take a look at in the community voice if people have any insights on that.
Just remember,
what you think about his matchup spread.
A banned character is never like let's say or I was number 1 with Puff, right?
Right.
No one ever took the idea of banning Puff seriously because there wasn't like any other Puffs like that were in contention to win a tournament. With Meta Knight, you had like 16 different Meta Knights.
Oh my god! And if they didn't play Meta Knight, you had a secondary.
Yep, you had to. Right?
Yeah,
and then you had Bayonetta's everywhere, and other top players secondary Bayonetta. That is when the idea of a ban happens, and I think right now. Yeah, I'm seeing. I don't know, man. I look to the left, a Steve win in a local. I look to the right, a Steve wins in Spain. Yeah. I look at the tournament I just won at across the stage. Onan wins Gommel. I look at the Invitational. Aquila win. Like holy crap! When you realize you can't stop avoiding it, that is when the question should be raised. A character should never, ever, ever be banned if one guy is winning and one guy only.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah, agreed.
But when you have 7 guys doing it. Let's talk about it.
Do you know, Hungrybox, do you know anything about, like, are there any existing super top players, like, people like MK Leo, Spargo, Light, Tweak, etc.? Are there any of those players that are, obviously Akola's already there, but are there any players that are thinking of switching to Steve? Because that would be interesting to see, right? Because that happened with Bayonetta.
I wish the Buzz would switch to Steve.
I
think the Buzz Steve. I'm gonna text him now, actually.
Yeah, you should tell him.
Okay, well,
I'm sure someone's told him. But anyway.
Yeah.
I can see Zachary doing it.
Managing your mining must be like managing your Pikmin. There's some similarities.
Yeah. When everyone says like, "Oh, I have a Sora secondary," or "Oh, I have like this like X character secondary," you're just like, "Come on." When someone says, "I have a Steve secondary," you're just like, "Fuck!" Like this is now we have to be concerned now. And I'll say this one more thing too, because I'm passionate about it. People comparing Kazuya anywhere near to Steve to ban Kazu. What? Like, are you? What? How is it even close? How? Oh, he can build blocks. He can build his own platforms. Have you seen Minecart? Like, it's not even a debate. Kazuya, not even close, dude. People want to ban Kazuya just salty because their friend beats him up with him. I'll be honest. Like, it's not even close. I don't feel.
Yeah, I mean. Well, this is a hot button issue. People have strong feelings. We're gonna see what the audience is taking on this one. But comments of this video, let us know. Would you push the button? And if MK Leo gets 3-0'd, will the character be banned in a year? We're gonna get to the bottom of this one, HBox. Don't worry, man. In the meantime, that's all we got. Questions asked, questions answered. Thank you so much, HBox, for coming on. Really appreciate you holding it down, giving us your insight, your experience, and your awareness, sir.
Had a great time.
One more comment I just realized.
What's that?
Leo, lose to Steve on purpose. The character will be banned, and then you'll have a great time winning.
Strong.
That's a long con, right?
Good.
Somebody tells me Leo's not that kind of guy.
Fixed tournaments. You heard it here first. Radio Melee message. Thank you so much, HBox, for coming on.
No,
Thank
yeah.
you so much, Toph, for holding it down. Really do appreciate it. And thank you guys out there for calling in, listening, and watching. This is
Mhm.
Radio Melee, signing out.